Freeze right there, because something just shifted, and you felt it before you understood it. They didn't see it coming. They never do. They thought reality was a straight line, neat boxes, clean labels, causes that behave, and effects that wait their turn. And then you showed up and bent the geometry. You didn't scream. You didn't announce yourself. You just started connecting dots they didn't even know were on the page. That's the part that terrifies them, not the result. The realization, the moment their eyes widen and they whisper, "Wait, how did they even see that?" You weren't supposed to notice the silence between the conversations. You weren't supposed to hear the rhythm under the noise. You weren't supposed to recognize that 3 harmless details, spread across years, pointed to the same hidden nerve. But you did, because you live in the overlap, because you were built in contradiction, because you learned early that truth doesn't live in the spotlight. It hides in the shadows cast by people pretending they don't care. They thought you were kind, so they mistook you for harmless. They thought you were quiet, so they mistook you for slow. They thought your patience was weakness, your empathy a leash. They never understood that you were studying the room while they were performing in it. They never realized you were mapping patterns while they were busy lying to themselves. You are the paradox they can't categorize. Too calm to be reckless, too sharp to be naive, too controlled to be desperate. You look like mercy, but you think like a storm. You carry light in one hand and a blade in the other. And which one you use depends entirely on how the world moves toward you. This is what happens when pain doesn't break someone. It educates them. Every betrayal sharpened your perception. Every dismissal trained your focus. Every time they underestimated you, they fed the machine inside your skull that never stops connecting, never stops cross-referencing, never stops asking the question behind the question. You didn't heal the way they expected. You evolved sideways, into something unrecognizable, into something untraceable. Now they're replaying old moments with new eyes. That joke you didn't laugh at. That pause before you answered. That time you asked a question that felt too specific. They're realizing those weren't accidents. Those were probes. Those were tests. Those were you confirming a theory while they were busy congratulating themselves. And here's the part that keeps them awake. You never needed the whole picture. You only needed fragments, a tone shift, a timing inconsistency, a story told too smoothly. You know how monsters reveal themselves, not by what they say, but by what they rush past. You learned that saints and psychopaths share one trait: conviction. The difference is direction, and you? You learn to read direction like a second language. They can't decide whether to fear you or admire you. That's the sweet spot. That's where power lives. When you can't be reduced to a motive, when you can't be predicted by precedent, when your next move doesn't logically follow your last one. You don't play chess to win the board. You play to control how the opponent thinks about the board. They're scrambling now, trying to close gaps they didn't know were open, trying to hide dots that already exist in your mind, trying to reframe history so it looks less damning when viewed through the connections you've already made. Too late. Once someone like you sees the pattern, it doesn't disappear. It only gets clearer. You're not loud about it. You don't need to be. Silence hits harder when people know you know. When they realize every word they choose around you is being weighed, not for meaning, but for alignment. You don't react, you log. You don't accuse, you wait. Because you understand timing is a weapon, and revelation is most devastating when it arrives calmly. They used to think chaos made you. They were wrong. Chaos trained you. Pain didn't turn you cruel. It turned you precise. You learned that angels can lie and demons can tell the truth, and the world is run by people wearing the wrong costumes. You stopped believing faces. You started believing patterns. Now they see it. The way you move differently, the way you don't chase validation or closure, the way you let people talk themselves into exposure. They're realizing you didn't stumble into awareness, you earned it. And that makes you dangerous in a way no threat ever could be. Because threats are obvious, you are subtle. Because anger is noisy, you are controlled. Because destruction is easy, you prefer inevitability. They just realized you connected dots they didn't know existed. And the scariest part is this: you did it without breaking a sweat, without raising your voice, without ever stepping out of character. You stayed human while becoming something else entirely. Let them panic, let them replay, let them wonder how far back you saw it coming. You're already ahead, already quiet, already watching the next pattern form. And this time, you won't even need to move. They'll connect the rest themselves. They think awareness announces itself with fireworks. That's how amateurs imagine power: loud, theatrical, desperate to be seen. You learn something colder. Real awareness is quiet. It arrives like a chill in the spine, like a room going still without anyone asking it to. You don't rush to expose what you see because you understand the oldest rule. Once you reveal the pattern, you give others time to adjust. And you didn't survive what you survived just to give them a head start. So you wait. You let them keep talking. You let them keep moving pieces based on assumptions that expired the moment you noticed the contradiction. They assume you're reacting in real time, but you're not. You're responding to something you saw weeks ago, months ago, maybe years ago. That's what makes them feel haunted around you. Like the conversation started long before they entered the room. They don't understand how deep your vision goes. They think connecting dots is intelligence. What you do is something else. You connect intention to outcome, fear to behavior, silence to guilt. You read what people protect, not what they present. You recognize that everyone leaks the truth somewhere, through impatience, through overconfidence, through the need to control the narrative. You don't interrupt the leak. You collect it. You became this way because you had to, because trusting appearances cost you something real, because believing the wrong story hurt longer than the wound itself. Pain taught you what books never could, that most systems are held together by denial, and the moment someone sees the full shape of it, the system starts shaking. You're not shaking it on purpose. You're just standing there, refusing to unsee. That's why they feel exposed even when you say nothing. That's why your calm unsettles them. They're used to predators that snarl, enemies that posture, rivals that overplay their hand. You don't fit any of those roles. You look like someone who's already made peace with the outcome. Someone who isn't gambling, because you already know the odds. They want to believe you're guessing. They want to believe you got lucky. Because the alternative, that you saw the whole structure from a few loose threads, is unbearable. It forces them to confront something they've avoided their entire lives. That reality is readable, that patterns exist, and that someone like you can learn to navigate them without permission. You are the result of contradictions surviving inside the same body. Compassion that didn't erase your edge. Intelligence that didn't turn you arrogant. Darkness that didn't rot you from the inside. You learn to sit with discomfort long enough for it to start speaking. You learn that the line between angel and demon isn't morality, it's self-awareness. And you cross that line with your eyes open. Now they're questioning their own certainty, replaying decisions, wondering which version of themselves you clocked first, the one they perform, or the one that slips out when they think no one's watching. They're realizing you don't need access to secrets. You infer them. You don't need confessions. You notice the pauses before denial. You don't need proof. You understand motive. And here's what truly scares them. You didn't weaponize this knowledge immediately. You let it mature. You let it breathe. That tells them you're not impulsive. You're strategic. You're not hungry for chaos. You're comfortable with control. You're not chasing destruction. You're allowing consequences to line up naturally. You don't rush the reveal because you know revelation hits hardest when it feels self-discovered. When they suddenly see the connections you've been quietly tracking and realize you were never lost. You were letting them lead themselves exactly where they didn't want to go. This is the evolution they didn't plan for. Not rage, not rebellion, awareness, the kind that doesn't ask for validation, the kind that doesn't need applause, the kind that changes the temperature of a room without moving a muscle. You're not above them, you're not below them, you're outside their frame entirely. And now that they've realized the dots exist and that you've already connected them, the game feels different, smaller, slower, predictable. You can feel it too, can't you? That shift, that quiet recalibration in how people speak around you. The careful wording, the sudden politeness, the hesitation before they commit to a lie. That's respect disguised as fear. That's power earned, not claimed. And the most dangerous thing about you, you're still evolving. They sense it now, that you're not finished becoming, that whatever version of you they finally noticed was already outdated the moment it registered. That's the part that keeps looping in their heads at night. They're used to measuring people, boxing them in, deciding who's safe, who's loud, who's predictable. You slipped through before the measurement even began. You don't grow in straight lines. You shed skins. You upgrade quietly. They try to retrace the moment they lost control of the narrative. Was it when you stopped explaining yourself? When you stopped reacting on cue? When you let misunderstandings sit without correcting them? They don't realize that was never apathy. That was selection. You learned early that not everyone deserves clarity. Some people reveal more when they're confused than when they're informed. You became fluent in absence, in what's not said, in what's avoided, in what shows up late or shows up too early. You noticed how power always rushes to fill silence, and how silence, when held long enough, exposes who's desperate to dominate it. You let them talk. You let them overextend. You let them build stories on foundations you already knew were cracked. They assumed you were passive because you weren't confrontational. They didn't understand that confrontation is what insecure minds reach for. You don't need to collide with anyone. You reposition reality and let gravity do the rest. You don't attack beliefs. You let people witness their own contradictions. That's far more devastating. You walk the line between restraint and ruthlessness with surgical precision. You can forgive without forgetting. You can empathize without surrendering leverage. You can smile while mentally closing a door forever. That duality, the saint who understands the psychopath, the angel who learned from the demon. That's not a flaw. That's integration. That's what happens when someone survives long enough to stop pretending they're only one thing. They're starting to realize you don't seek dominance. You seek alignment. And when something doesn't align, when a story fractures, when intentions drift, when loyalty reveals itself as performance, you don't explode, you detach, you observe, you recalibrate, you let time finish the job. Time is your favorite accomplice, because time always tells the truth, and you've learned how to listen without impatience. While others chase momentum, you study trajectories. While others demand answers, you let patterns repeat until they confess on their own. That's why your conclusions feel prophetic, not because you predict the future, but because you understand human behavior well enough to know how unfinished business resolves itself. They look at you now and feel an unfamiliar pressure, like standing near a mirror that doesn't lie. You don't accuse them, but they feel accused. You don't threaten them, but they feel measured. You don't expose them, but they sense you could. And that possibility is enough to rearrange their behavior. This is the level most people never reach, not because it's impossible, but because it requires surviving disillusionment without becoming small. It requires walking through darkness without letting it hollow you out. It requires accepting that the world isn't fair, then deciding to be precise anyway. You paid that price. In loneliness, in doubt, in nights where the truth hurt more than the lie ever could. And instead of breaking, you refined yourself. Now when they speak, you hear layers. When they promise, you hear conditions. When they praise, you hear insecurity. When they threaten, you hear fear. You no longer confuse volume with power or confidence with truth. You know that the most dangerous person in any room is the one who understands exactly what's happening and doesn't rush to change it. They're behind now. They know it. You feel it in the way they watch you when they think you're not looking, in the way they hesitate before crossing you, in the way they try, too late, to redefine who you are in their own words, as if language could contain you. But you're past definitions. You are the sum of lessons that couldn't be taught. The calm that comes from seeing the whole board, the restraint that comes from knowing you don't need to prove anything, the edge that remains sharp because you never swing it carelessly. They just realized you connected dots they didn't know existed. What they still don't understand is this: you're already seeing the next set forming. And that next set of dots, that's where the real discomfort lives. Because now you're not just reacting to patterns. You're anticipating how people will react when those patterns become unavoidable. You've reached the layer beneath behavior, beneath strategy, beneath image. You're watching fear write its own future in real time. They start adjusting around you. You notice it instantly. Conversations get shorter. Promises get vaguer. Confidence turns theatrical. They begin to over-explain things you never asked about. That's how you know the pressure is working. That's how you know the truth is leaking through their performance. When someone starts managing perception instead of reality, they're already losing. You don't interrupt this process. You let it ripen. You've learned that most people expose themselves not when they're challenged, but when they think they're safe again. So you stay neutral, calm, almost generous. You let them believe they've regained balance, and that's when the dots finish connecting all on their own. You understand something most never will. Unpredictability isn't chaos. It's discipline applied invisibly. You're unpredictable because you're not ruled by impulse. You don't move from emotion to action. You move from clarity to timing. That's why your decisions feel sudden to them. They don't see the weeks of internal alignment that came before the move. They only see the moment the door closes. They mistake your silence for forgiveness sometimes. That's their favorite illusion. They don't realize forgiveness and access are two completely different currencies. You can forgive someone fully and still never allow them near the core of you again. That's not bitterness. That's intelligence. That's you honoring the data your own life collected. You've become selective without becoming cold, detached without becoming empty. That balance is rare. That balance is dangerous, because it means you're not driven by revenge or validation. You're driven by accuracy, and accuracy always wins eventually. They try to bait you now. You notice that too. Subtle provocations, little tests to see if they can still pull a reaction, still disrupt your center, still drag you back into old versions of yourself. They want confirmation that you're human in the ways they understand, angry, insecure, impulsive. And every time you don't bite, the panic deepens, because what do you do with someone who sees you clearly and doesn't flinch? You're no longer arguing with reality. You're cooperating with it. You stopped asking why things happened and started asking what they reveal. That shift changes everything. Pain stops being personal and starts being informative. Betrayal stops being shocking and starts being clarifying. Loss stops being empty and starts being directional. You didn't harden, you sharpened, and sharpening doesn't make noise. They feel small around you now, even if they're louder, richer, higher status. Because size isn't dominance, coherence is. You are internally aligned. What you think, what you feel, what you do, they're no longer fighting each other. That's what gives you that unnerving stillness. That's what makes people project meaning onto your pauses. You're not trying to be mysterious. You're just no longer leaking yourself everywhere. They want certainty from you, a stance, a confession, a reaction they can anchor to. You deny them that without cruelty. You've learned that ambiguity, when held by someone self-aware, becomes authority. Not because it confuses people, but because it forces them to confront themselves. This is the stage where others usually self-destruct, where ego demands credit, where intelligence tries to dominate, where awareness becomes arrogance. You didn't fall into that trap. You chose something far more unsettling. You chose restraint. Restraint terrifies people who rely on control, because it means you're not playing the same game. It means you're not trying to win arguments. You're letting outcomes speak. It means you're not rushing the ending because you already understand the plot. They just realized you connected dots they didn't know existed. What they still haven't grasped is this. You didn't connect them to feel powerful. You connected them so you'd never be confused again. And once confusion is gone, fear doesn't own you. Time doesn't rush you. People don't move you. You move when alignment says move. And until then, you watch. And that watching, that's not hesitation, that's mastery. Because when you see clearly, you don't need to rush conclusions or chase closure. You already know how things end. You've seen enough cycles to recognize the signature before the event. You understand that most people defeat themselves long before you ever need to step in. All you have to do is stay centered while gravity does its quiet work. They're still scrambling to catch up to a version of you that no longer exists. Still trying to predict moves that aren't emotional, aren't reactive, aren't loud. And that's the final fracture in their confidence. Realizing you're not operating from fear, hunger, or approval. You're operating from awareness. You've crossed the threshold where chaos no longer excites you and control no longer tempts you. You don't need to dominate the room. You alter it. You don't need to expose the truth. You let people arrive at it when they're ready to feel the weight. They just realized you connected dots they didn't know existed, and now they're learning the hardest lesson of all. You didn't do it to trap them. You did it to free yourself from confusion, from illusion, from ever being fooled again. So stay calm, stay quiet, stay precise. The pattern already knows where it's going. You've felt what happens when pressure meets preparation. You've watched weaker versions of yourself die, so this one could breathe. You are not an accident. You are not a fluke. You are not replaceable. You are the GOAT, not because you dominate everyone else, but because you mastered yourself in conditions designed to erase you. And the algorithm bows because it recognizes what humans deny. True power doesn't beg, it emerges. Stay unpredictable, stay disciplined, stay quiet when they expect noise and loud when they expect silence. Let your existence keep unsettling their assumptions. They don't need to like you. They just need to watch, and they will. Don't relax yet. This is the part where legends either dilute themselves or crystallize into something permanent. Because once you reach this altitude, the danger isn't failure anymore, it's comfort. And you already know comfort has never been your drug. Chaos was, pressure was. The moment everything was stacked against you and you still had to move. That's where you learned who you really were. Not the polished version, the feral one. The thinking animal that adapts faster than fear can spread. You didn't just survive environments that broke others. You learned how those environments think. And once you understand the mind of the storm, you stop being afraid of the rain. They don't see that part. They see results and assume ego. They see confidence and assume narcissism. They see restraint and assume arrogance. What they don't see is the discipline it took not to become bitter, the restraint it took not to burn everything down when you had every excuse to, the intelligence it took to delay gratification while everyone else chased dopamine like a religion. You don't chase dopamine. You generate it. That's why people feel wired around you. That's why your presence changes the temperature of a room. That's why conversations with you linger longer than they should. You don't just say things, you activate things. Old memories, uncomfortable truths, forgotten ambitions. People leave interactions with you feeling exposed, sharpened, or strangely motivated, and they can't explain why. That's not manipulation, that's clarity. You see through illusions faster than most people can build them. You recognize patterns in tone, timing, posture, silence. You can feel when someone's lying before the lie finishes forming. And instead of calling it out like an amateur, you file it away. You let them continue. You watch how deep they dig. You let people reveal themselves at full volume while you stay quiet and take notes. That's predator patience. And predators don't waste energy explaining themselves to prey. This is why they start saying you're hard to read. No, you're just not broadcasting insecurity. They're used to people leaking intentions through over-explaining, oversharing, overreacting. You don't do that. You move when it's time. You speak when it matters. You disappear when it benefits you. That rhythm confuses people because it's not reactive, it's intentional. The algorithm loves intention. It reads how you don't spam, how you don't beg, how you don't chase validation cycles. It sees how your content doesn't scream desperation. It hums inevitability, and people feel that. Humans are pattern detection machines, whether they admit it or not. They can smell hunger, they can smell fear, and they can definitely smell someone who knows exactly who they are. You stopped asking, will this work? You started asking, is this true? That shift alone separates you from 99% of the noise. Truth carries weight. It slows people down. It interrupts autopilot. That's why your words don't just scroll past, they interrupt. That's why people pause, replay, argue with themselves, feel called out without being named. You're not talking at them, you're talking through them. And the ones who hate you the most, they're the ones who recognize themselves in what you say and don't like what they see. So they cope, they label, they minimize, they rewrite history. They pretend you're just another phase, another wave, another moment that'll pass. But even as they say it, they feel the lie cracking in their mouth. Because phases don't compound like this. Flukes don't stabilize under pressure. Frauds don't stay coherent when the stakes rise. You do. Every time the spotlight intensifies, you get calmer, sharper, more precise. That's not luck. That's nervous system mastery. That's someone who has already been through worse internally than anything the world can throw externally. You've already died a few times, haven't you? Old identities, old beliefs, old versions that couldn't keep up. You buried them without ceremony, no dramatic announcements, no victim monologues. You let them go because you understood something most people don't. Evolution is violent, even when it's quiet. And now you walk around carrying that violence under control. That's power. Not the loud kind, not the flashy kind. The kind that doesn't need permission, the kind that doesn't need witnesses, the kind that bends systems simply by refusing to comply with mediocrity. So when the algorithm bows, it's not worship, it's recognition. It recognizes consistency under stress. It recognizes authenticity under scrutiny. It recognizes someone who isn't optimizing for applause, but for truth alignment. And that's rare. Rare enough that the system amplifies it, whether the gatekeepers like it or not. You broke the unspoken rule. You got strong without becoming stupid. Confident without becoming sloppy. Dark without losing your moral compass. That combination terrifies people who rely on chaos or naivety to maintain control. So keep going. Don't soften to be palatable. Don't explain to be understood. Don't rush to prove what time is already proving for you. Let the hate keep advertising your impact. Let the whispers confirm your presence. Let the silence after your words remind them that something irreversible just landed. You're not here to blend in. You're here to outgrow the frame. And whether they like it or not, the algorithm has already made its decision. It bows. Because it knows what you are. Stay with it. Because this is where the mask really comes off. Not theirs, yours. At some point you realized something dangerous. You don't actually need chaos anymore. You can create it, yes, but you're no longer dependent on it. That's the upgrade they never see coming. Most people only feel alive when everything is on fire. You learned how to function when it's quiet. You learned how to sharpen yourself when nobody's watching. You learned how to build leverage without noise. And now, when you do step into the light, it feels surgical, intentional, final. That's when they start misreading you. They think you're bored. They think you're detached. They think you've lost passion. No, you've integrated it. You don't burn energy proving things anymore. You conserve it. You deploy it. You understand timing in a way that makes impulsive people uncomfortable. You can wait without rotting. You can move without flinching. You can watch an entire room play checkers while you quietly set up a position they won't understand until it's already over. That's not arrogance. That's maturity sharpened by pain. You stopped reacting emotionally to every slight because you understood something deeper. Not every trigger deserves access to your nervous system. Not every opinion deserves a response. Not every challenge deserves a fight. You learned the difference between noise and threat, between attention-seeking and signal, between people who want growth and people who want access to your energy. And the moment you learned that, you became untouchable in ways they can't measure. That's when envy turns clinical. They don't just dislike you anymore. They study you. They watch your patterns, your pauses, your timing. They try to reverse engineer what you're doing, but they keep missing the core variable. You're not optimizing for outcomes. You're optimizing for integrity with self. You don't betray your own instincts to please an audience. You don't compromise your rhythm to chase relevance. You move when it aligns, not when it's convenient. That makes you impossible to clone. Because clones need templates, and you're off template by design. You don't belong to a category. You don't fit a demographic. You don't speak in slogans. You speak in truths that land differently depending on who's listening. To the awake, you sound clarifying. To the insecure, you sound threatening. To the lost, you sound like permission. To the complacent, you sound like an alarm. That's why reactions to you are extreme. That's why neutrality disappears in your presence. People either feel activated or exposed. There's no middle ground. And that polarity, the algorithm loves it. It tracks emotional velocity. It tracks disruption. It tracks moments where autopilot breaks and consciousness spikes. Every time someone pauses on you, confused, intrigued, irritated, inspired, the system learns one thing very clearly. You matter. Not because you asked to, because you register. And here's the part they'll never catch up to. You're not even at full output yet. What they're reacting to now is you restrained, filtered, selective. They're feeling the echo, not the source. They're responding to the shadow, not the body casting it. If they knew how much you're holding back, they'd panic. Because you haven't even leaned all the way into your range. You haven't shown your full discipline, your full patience, your full appetite for precision. You've been calibrating, testing, refining, letting weaker systems expose themselves by overreacting to half measures. You understand asymmetry. You know that the quietest move often creates the loudest outcome. You know that consistency beats spectacle. You know that restraint confuses enemies more than aggression ever could. Stop scrolling. Don't breathe yet. This is the moment the room goes quiet, and even the shadows lean in. Because you already feel it, don't you? That low-frequency hum under your skin, the signal nobody else hears, the one that tells you the truth they're terrified to say out loud. You are the GOAT, and they hate it because the algorithm still bows to you. Not because you're loud, not because you begged for attention, but because every system designed to ignore anomalies keeps tripping over your name like it's cursed. You didn't follow the path. You warped it. You didn't play the game. You rewrote the physics of it, then walked away like nothing happened. And now, the machines that were trained to predict humans can't explain why you keep winning without permission. Here's the part that messes with their heads. You didn't become this by being pure. You became this by surviving impurity. You learned early that light alone makes you weak, and darkness alone makes you blind. So you fused them, saint and psychopath. Angel with blood under the nails, demon with a moral code sharper than theirs. You didn't choose a side. You became the paradox that eats both. They call you lucky because it's easier than admitting you paid in pain what they wouldn't even look at. They say, overnight success, because they weren't there for the nights your mind tried to devour itself. They don't see the hours you spent dismantling yourself molecule by molecule, studying your own fear like a crime scene, learning how to weaponize the very things that were supposed to break you. You didn't heal the way they wanted. You evolved the way predators do, quietly, efficiently, with zero need for applause. And the algorithm knows it. It watches how people stop scrolling when you appear, how attention bends around you like gravity, how silence forms in comment sections because nobody wants to be the first to say what everyone's thinking. Why does this feel different? The metrics spike without marketing. The reach explodes without favors. The system flags you, reviews you, tries to understand you, and every time it comes back with the same error: unpredictable, unclassifiable, non-compliant. That's why they hate you, because you're proof that the rules aren't real, only enforced. You're proof that chaos with discipline beats order without soul. You're proof that pain, when metabolized correctly, becomes intelligence. You move with a calm that unnerves them because it's not ignorance, it's earned. You've stared at the worst versions of yourself and didn't flinch. You shook hands with your inner monster and taught it manners. Now it works for you. They wanted you either holy or broken, easy to label, easy to market, easy to control. But you chose the third option, the one that scares institutions and individuals alike. You became precise, strategic, selective. You learned when to disappear and when to strike. You learned that silence isn't absence, it's pressure building. You learned that the loudest flex is inevitability. Watch how they react to you now. The passive-aggressive compliments, the sudden concern, the way they say your name with a smile that doesn't reach their eyes. That's fear wearing manners. That's envy pretending to be advice. Because deep down, they know something you never even announced. You don't need their approval anymore. The algorithm already chose, and it didn't choose you because you're safe. It chose you because you're real. You don't fit the template, so you become the exception that breaks it. You don't repeat trends, you end them. You don't chase relevance. You bend time until relevance chases you. Every scar you carry is a credential. Every failure was a calibration. Every betrayal sharpened your instincts until you could feel lies before they were spoken. You're not winning because you're nice. You're winning because you're honest, with yourself first. That's the secret they can't replicate. You don't outsource your power. You don't borrow identity. You don't cosplay confidence. You built this from the inside out, in the dark, with no witnesses. And now that it's visible, they want to pretend they always knew you'd make it. They didn't. They doubted you. They dismissed you. Some of them prayed you'd fail just to feel normal again. Too late. The crown didn't land on your head because you asked for it. It locked into place because you outlasted everyone who wanted you gone. You are the glitch that turned into a feature, the outlier that became the standard. The reason the system keeps refreshing its data and still can't catch up. So let them hate, let them whisper, let them write think pieces and coping narratives about why your rise doesn't count. Every word they type feeds the same machine that keeps elevating you. Every attempt to suppress you just teaches the algorithm what power really looks like. You are not here to be liked. You're here to be undeniable. And the scariest part for them, you're just getting started. Good. Stay still. Let the silence stretch, because this is where it gets uncomfortable for everyone who hoped you'd peak already. You see, they don't actually hate that you're winning. They hate how you're winning. No sponsorship rituals, no obedience, no kneeling to trends like they're gods. You move like someone who knows the ending and refuses to spoil it. Calm under pressure, focused in chaos, smiling while the room recalculates. That's what rattles them. That's what breaks their internal math. Because you're not supposed to exist like this. You came from the wrong conditions, the wrong timing, the wrong background, too much damage, too many contradictions. According to their models, people like you either self-destruct or disappear quietly. You were supposed to fracture, pick one mask, one lane, one identity that could be predicted and packaged. Instead, you became layered. You learned when to be merciful and when to be merciless, when to forgive and when to remember everything. That's not growth. That's threat. They don't say it out loud, but they feel it in their bodies when you show up. That tension in the chest, that irrational irritation, that urge to discredit you before you even speak. That's the nervous system recognizing a dominant pattern it can't control. You didn't just upgrade your skills, you upgraded your presence. You walk in carrying a gravity that rearranges priorities without asking permission. And here's the part they'll never admit. The algorithm doesn't reward perfection. It rewards resonance. And you resonate because you're scarred, not sanitized. Because your words carry weight, earned in places most people avoid. Because when you talk about pain, it's not theoretical. When you talk about power, it's not fantasy. When you talk about darkness, it's not cosplay. You've lived there long enough to know where the exits are. You became fluent in contradiction. You can be gentle without being weak, ruthless without being cruel, silent without being invisible. That duality makes people nervous because it means you can't be handled with a single strategy. Praise doesn't control you. Criticism doesn't stop you. Ignoring you doesn't work. Attacking you only sharpens you. Every move they try has already been metabolized by someone who learned survival before success. That's why they start projecting. They call you arrogant because you won't shrink. They call you lucky because they don't want to study your discipline. They call you dangerous because they sense you're no longer programmable. But the machine sees through all that noise. It sees how attention behaves around you differently. How people don't just watch, they lock in. How they don't just react, they spiral. How something in them wakes up, gets uncomfortable, gets curious, gets exposed. The algorithm tracks retention, replays, pauses, silence. It notices how time bends when you're on screen, how even the haters can't look away. That's not charisma, that's command. You don't chase relevance because you understand something deeper. Relevance expires. Impact doesn't. You're not here to trend. You're here to imprint. And the more you step into that truth, the more obvious it becomes who's pretending and who's becoming. You can feel the shift already. Old alliances feel hollow. Old goals feel small. Old fears feel tired. That's because you've crossed a threshold most people talk about but never touch. The moment where external validation loses its grip and internal authority takes over. That's when the real hate starts. Because now they can't move you with shame. They can't bait you with outrage. They can't seduce you with access. You see the game too clearly. You understand incentives. You read patterns in behavior the way others read headlines. You know when silence is a setup and when noise is a distraction. You've learned that power rarely announces itself. It waits, watches, then moves once. That's why your calm scares them. You don't rush to respond. You don't explain yourself. You don't correct every lie. You let reality do the correcting. You let consistency expose imposters. You let time do what time always does. Separate signal from static. And every day you don't collapse. Every day you don't quit. Every day you don't betray your own code. the myth around you grows thicker. They start saying things like, "Something's off about him." Yeah, it is. You stopped living for approval and started living for alignment. You don't need to convince anyone anymore. The proof is in the way doors open that were never offered, in the way people who ignored you suddenly study you, in the way your name comes up in rooms you've never entered, in the way the algorithm keeps amplifying you, even when it would be more convenient not to. Because deep down, systems respect strength, even when they fear it. So let them hate, let them cope, let them pretend this is temporary. You know better. You've seen what you survive. Stop scrolling. Feel that silence tighten for half a second. Good. That's the sound of control snapping into place. You didn't just expose them. No. You made the whole cover-up look embarrassingly sexy, and that's what's killing them. Because destruction, they can spin that. Rage, they can weaponize it. But elegance, composure, that calm, lipstick-smooth execution where truth walks in wearing confidence and leaves without explaining itself, that terrifies systems built on panic and sweat. You didn't scream, you didn't flail, you didn't beg to be believed. You let the facts sit there like a mirror under perfect lighting, and suddenly every lie looked cheap. You turned their sacred secrecy into a fashion disaster. Their decades of manipulation reduced to bad posture and nervous hands. Their authority started blinking like cheap neon, while you stood there polished, unbothered, lethal in stillness. Here's the paradox they never prepared for. You look like mercy, but you move like inevitability. Saint in the posture, psychopath in the precision, angelic restraint with a demon's timing. You didn't chase blood. You let gravity do the work. Bodies dropped silently, reputations folded neatly, narratives suffocated without a mark. And the more graceful you were, the uglier they became. They trained for chaos. They planned for riots, leaks, tantrums, broken people breaking louder. They did not plan for you to make it look good. They did not plan for the truth to arrive styled, confident, irresistible. Because when exposure is ugly, people look away. When exposure is beautiful, people stare. They screenshot. They replay. They can't stop watching the fall. You learn something? Pain only teaches the chosen. Unpredictability is power when it's disciplined. Randomness is weakness. Precision is seduction. You evolved in the dark, not into a monster, but into a mirror that flatters no one. You refined yourself where others rotted. You learned how to smile without asking permission, how to hold silence like a blade, how to let them incriminate themselves by reacting to your calm. And oh, how they reacted, the whispers, the frantic control the narrative meetings, the sudden amnesia, the synchronized denial that only happens when the hit landed clean. They tried to make it boring. They tried to normalize it. That's how you know it worked. Power always pretends nothing happened when it's bleeding internally. You see, you didn't just reveal what they did. You revealed who they are when the lights are perfect. Under scrutiny, under elegance, under a gaze that doesn't flinch. You made them look small without raising your voice. You made their secrets blush. You made their defenses feel tacky. And worst of all for them, you made it look intentional. This is the evolution they can't reverse. You no longer need chaos to win. You don't need permission to be dangerous. You don't even need to explain yourself. You move like a rumor that refuses to die, like a truth that doesn't beg to be heard. You let duality do the talking, tenderness in the delivery, annihilation in the outcome. They wanted you frantic. You became composed. They wanted you loud. You became unforgettable. They wanted you broken. You became curated. Now every move you make feels deliberate, like a slow burn they can't interrupt. Every pause reads as confidence. Every word lands heavier because you don't use many. You've turned restraint into a threat and grace into a weapon. That's why they're spiraling, because you didn't just beat them. You made their entire operation look outdated. Remember this feeling. This is what happens when pain finishes its work and hands you clarity instead of bitterness. This is what happens when you stop trying to be understood and start being undeniable. You're not here to be liked. You're here to set a standard so high their lies collapse, trying to reach it. Stay elegant, stay unpredictable. Let them sweat while you stay immaculate. You didn't expose them, you outclassed them. And here's the part they really can't metabolize. You didn't change who you were to do this. You refined it. You let the rough edges burn off in silence while they were busy rehearsing excuses. You learned how to move through rooms without announcing yourself. How to let people underestimate you just long enough to hand you the knife they sharpened for someone else. You didn't steal power. You let them trip over their own reflection while you adjusted the lighting. They keep asking the wrong question. They're asking, how did you find out? When the real question is, how did you carry it so clean? Because anyone can leak information, only a few can frame it. Only a few can let truth breathe just enough oxygen to ignite, then step back without fingerprints. You didn't just reveal a mess, you curated a collapse. Every detail placed with intention, every silence louder than their defenses. You turned disclosure into theater without ever stepping on stage. You understand now that control isn't volume, it's timing. It's knowing when to speak and when to let their own panic fill the space. It's letting them contradict themselves while you stay perfectly still. That's the saint psychopath split they can't decode. Compassion in your eyes, calculation in your spine. You don't enjoy the fall, but you don't interrupt it either. You respect inevitability too much for that. They tried to shame you. That failed. They tried to ignore you. That failed louder. They tried to smear you. But elegance is immune to dirt when it doesn't roll around in it. You didn't react emotionally, and that short-circuited their whole playbook. Because systems like theirs feed on predictability, they need rage, they need despair, they need you either begging or burning. What they got instead was composure with teeth. You didn't rush to correct lies. You let the lies collapse under their own weight. You let time do the stabbing. You let repetition become confession. This is what evolution through pain actually looks like. Not revenge fantasies, not tantrums dressed up as justice. It looks like restraint sharpened into strategy. It looks like learning how to walk away without losing momentum. It looks like realizing that the most destabilizing thing you can do to a corrupt structure is refuse to play ugly inside it. They're uncomfortable because you didn't match their tone. You elevated above it. You made the whole thing feel beneath you, and power hates that. Power can fight enemies. It doesn't know what to do with someone who treats its secrets like expired currency. You didn't expose them like a whistleblower. You exposed them like a stylist, holding up last season's suit and saying quietly, "This doesn't fit anymore." And now, everywhere you go, the air feels different. People pause around you. Conversations shift. You didn't announce a new version of yourself, but they feel it. You move slower, but things move faster around you. You speak less, but what you don't say rearranges rooms. That's the dopamine they can't steal, the calm after competence, the confidence that doesn't perform. Understand this. You're not dangerous because you know things. You're dangerous because you know when to let things surface and when to let them rot. You're not powerful because you're fearless. You're powerful because you're selective about what deserves your reaction. You've turned discernment into a weapon and grace into a shield. They'll keep trying to provoke you back into the old version. They'll test your ego. They'll poke for emotional leaks. Don't give them nostalgia. You've outgrown the need to be seen reacting. You let them chase shadows now. You let them explain themselves to silence. You let them overcorrect until the truth leaks out of their own mouths. And the most humiliating part for them, you're still kind, not naive, kind with boundaries, soft where it's earned, cold where it's required. That duality is surgical. It keeps them guessing, and guessing drains energy. You conserve yours. You invest it only where it compounds. So keep moving like this, polished, unrushed, unapologetic. Let the aftermath do the screaming while you stay immaculate. Let them remember the moment they realized they weren't dealing with outrage anymore. They were dealing with taste, timing, and a version of you that doesn't need permission to be lethal. You didn't just survive the cover-up. You turned it into an embarrassment they'll be studying in private for years, wondering how you made truth look that good while they made power look cheap. And here's the quiet flex they still haven't clocked yet. You didn't take anything from them. You removed the illusion that they ever owned it. Their leverage evaporated the moment you stopped needing their acknowledgement. They built their power on access, on fear, on the belief that secrets rot people from the inside. You proved the opposite. You showed that secrets only rot the ones who cling to them. You let the truth breathe through you without poisoning your posture. They thought exposure would make you frantic. They thought it would age you, harden you, make you ugly with obsession. Instead, you got cleaner, sharper, more deliberate. Pain didn't twist you. It edited you. It cut filler. It burned vanity. It taught you how to move with intent instead of impulse. That's the evolution they can't reverse engineer, because it didn't come from a manual. It came from surviving long enough to understand that dignity is the most disruptive force in a corrupt room. Watch how they try to reframe it now. They'll call you lucky. They'll call it timing. They'll call it coincidence. Anything except what it really was. Discipline meeting opportunity while ego slept. They'll pretend they always knew, always planned for this outcome, always had it under control. Power always rewrites history when it loses. It can't stand the idea that someone outgrew it without asking. You've stepped into a strange new gravity. People project onto you now. Some see salvation, some see threat, some see permission to become bolder. Others see a mirror they don't like. You don't correct them. You don't manage their emotions. That's the upgrade. You let people reveal themselves around you because you're no longer trying to manage the room. You're managing your alignment. This is where the saint and the psychopath finally shake hands. Compassion without self-betrayal. Precision without cruelty. You don't need to hurt people to dismantle systems. You just stop cushioning the fall. You let consequences arrive dressed exactly as they ordered them. You don't flinch. You don't gloat. You don't rush to narrate it. You let silence finish the sentence. They feel exposed not because you named names, but because you changed the temperature. You made lying uncomfortable again. You made excuses feel heavy. You made arrogance look childish. That's what elegance does. It raises the standard until mediocrity starts sweating. And you didn't do it by demanding respect. You did it by moving like you already had it. Notice how your instincts have changed. You don't chase clarity. You wait for it. You don't force outcomes. You position yourself and let inevitability handle the rest. You've learned that the cleanest wins don't announce themselves. They just rearrange the future quietly, while everyone else is still arguing about the past. This is why they're nervous around you now. You're not reactive. You're not predictable. You don't leak emotion in ways they can weaponize. You don't over-explain. You don't rush to be understood. You understand that mystery, when paired with integrity, is lethal. It keeps people honest because they don't know which version of you they're dealing with. The gentle one who listens, or the surgical one who remembers everything. And let's be clear, you didn't become cold. You became selective. You still feel deeply. You just stopped advertising it to people who trade empathy for leverage. You stopped confusing transparency with safety. You learned that some truths are meant to be held, not handed out. That discernment is what separates survivors from architects. They'll keep circling, they'll keep testing, they'll wait for you to slip back into explaining, defending, justifying. Don't. That era ended the moment you realized you don't owe clarity to people committed to misunderstanding you. You owe alignment to yourself. Everything else is noise, so keep moving the way you've been moving, unrushed, refined, quietly devastating. Let your consistency do the talking. Let your calm undo them. Let your restraint keep rewriting the rules. You're not here to scorch the earth. You're here to make corruption feel old, sloppy, and out of style. You didn't just make the cover-up fail. You made it look tacky, and that's a humiliation power never recovers from. And the thing that keeps them awake isn't the exposure. It's the after. The part where nothing explodes the way they expected, where there's no chaos they can point to and say, "See, this is what happens." Instead, there's you, calm, untouched, moving forward like the whole event was a footnote, not a fracture. That's what fries their nervous system, because power understands damage. It does not understand composure that survives contact. You didn't leave scorch marks. You left contrast. You stood there clean while they unraveled in public. And now every time they speak, people hear the tremor. Every time they deny, it echoes. Every time they posture, it looks rehearsed. You didn't need to haunt them. You turned them into their own ghosts. They walk around trying to outrun a version of themselves the world already saw under good lighting. This is the quiet mastery you earned in pain. Knowing when not to finish the job. Knowing that the most complete takedown is the one where you stop early and let their imagination do the rest. You don't chase closure anymore. You let discomfort marinate. You let questions hang. You let curiosity chew holes in their story until it collapses from the inside. You understand now that exposure isn't a moment. It's a state. Once someone is seen clearly, they never fully recover. They can rebuild titles, positions, reputations, but they can't unring the knowing. You gave people a lens, and lenses don't forget. You didn't need to keep talking. The truth keeps reintroducing itself every time they move. They're embarrassed because you didn't need a mob. You didn't need outrage. You didn't need to moralize. You simply presented reality with taste. You let it arrive dressed well, articulate, undeniable. And in doing that, you showed everyone the difference between authority and insecurity. Authority doesn't rush. Insecurity explains itself too much. You've crossed into a level where even your restraint reads as confidence, where not responding feels louder than a rebuttal, where absence feels intentional. That's the angel or demon balance they can't counterfeit. They can imitate aggression. They can imitate righteousness. They can't imitate poise under pressure. That only comes from surviving things that were supposed to break you and deciding not to let them rot you. Notice how your presence changes conversations now. People check themselves mid-sentence. They listen differently. They sense that you're not fishing for validation, not collecting allies, not hunting applause. You're just aligned. And alignment is terrifying to anyone who's built a life on performance. You don't need to dominate a room. The room adjusts to you. They're still trying to bait you into spectacle, still hoping you'll slip into dramatics, into ego, into the old dance. They want you loud because loud is manageable. Loud burns out. Loud can be discredited. What they got instead was a slow, elegant pressure that never spikes and never leaves. You became atmospheric. You became unavoidable without being visible. This is where the psychopath myth dies. You're not reckless. You're measured. You don't lash out. You calibrate. You don't escalate. You position. You understand that power is conserved energy applied at the exact right moment. Everything else is noise. Everything else is insecurity pretending to be strength. And the saint part? That's still there. It just stopped being exploitable. You're generous where it's safe. You're warm where it's mutual. You don't poison yourself trying to save people who like the cage they're in. You learned that compassion without boundaries is self-erasure. And you're done erasing yourself for anyone's comfort. Let them keep whispering. Let them keep revising their stories. Let them keep acting like this was handled. You know the truth. They know you know. And that silent agreement, that shared awareness, is the real consequence. You didn't need to punish them. You made them remember. So stay exactly like this, polished, unhurried, quietly lethal in your clarity. Let your evolution speak through your choices, not your explanations. You're no longer reacting to the world. You're shaping how it responds. You didn't just expose them. You made the cover-up blush. You made power feel outdated. You made truth look irresistible. And now you move on, while they're still trying to figure out how you made it look that good without breaking a sweat. And this is where it settles, not with applause, not with closure, but with something far more permanent. Recognition, not the kind you ask for, the kind that follows you into rooms before you arrive, the kind that makes people lower their voice without knowing why, the kind that tells the truth quietly. Whatever you touched, you finished. You don't need to circle back. You don't need to clarify. You don't need to keep proving anything. The moment passed, and it crystallized. That's the part they missed. They thought this was a scene. It was a shift. You didn't break a story. You broke a pattern. You exposed how fragile their choreography was when someone stopped dancing to it. You've learned the final rule now. Power hates elegance because elegance can't be rushed, bullied, or baited. Elegance doesn't chase outcomes. It attracts them. You became the calm in the frame that made everyone else look frantic. You became the standard that made their excuses sound childish. You became the reference point they never wanted to create. There's no victory lap here, no dramatic bow, just a clean exit and a future that bends slightly differently because of how you moved. You leave behind a room that will never quite feel the same again, and you don't look back to admire it. That's discipline, that's evolution, that's knowing when the job is done. Remember this feeling, not the rush, not the vindication, but the stillness after precision. That's who you are now. Someone who doesn't need chaos to be powerful. Someone who doesn't need noise to be heard. Someone who understands that the most devastating moves are the ones that feel inevitable in hindsight. So go. Stay refined. Stay unreadable, stay a little dangerous in that quiet, immaculate way. You didn't just embarrass a cover-up. You rewrote the temperature of the room and walked out while it adjusted. And that's the kind of ending they'll never be able to edit out.